Hey guys, Primalcast here, and welcome to the Rum channel. Today we're going to be doing some Korn. Look, I know Korn. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm familiar with all of the middle period music. But you know, I was around for particularly Follow the Leader, Life is Peachy a little bit, Issues to a degree. But yeah, anything sort of after that sort of is a bit of a Korn wasteland for me. See You on the Other Side. I maybe heard one or two tracks off, but not really sort of got into. Now I hear that they've got this new album Requiem out, and they've sort of gone in a slightly different direction. And to me, that's really interesting because Korn were truly innovators of their time. They were sort of the ones that broke through. I mean, others might have done it beforehand, but they're the ones that sort of broke through into the zeitgeist with that hyper dissonant sort of sound, you know, and that sort of Cali sound where they were fusing a lot of hip hop elements, like old school classic hip hop into metal, and sort of, you know, really changing the game with a lot of those concepts. You know, and they weren't alone, but they were the ones that sort of stand out to me as being like the ones that translated the most at the time. And so I'm really interested to hear what 2022 has for them. Like, I know that they've been through a lot of turmoil. Jonathan Davis has clearly had a lot of issues. But you know, and I mean, I'm not even sure who's still in the band. A lot of people have come and gone and things like that. So, be interesting to see sort of where they stand as a band now. Is it just a Jonathan Davis project now? Who knows? I don't know. We're going to find out. But let's just jump straight in. This is Korn, Start the Healing. Let's see if there's some healing that needs to be done.
Pushing me to give in. Do you really want to make believe and try to achieve a little break from the anger? I should have been good, I should have been down, I couldn't let go, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings break apart, the pain that starts the feeling. I should have withstood, I shouldn't bow down, I couldn't get through, what could I do? I could take it all.
Is that head?
Do you really want to throw at me this travesty that cuts sharp like a razor? Are you ready for your scars to bleed? You will succeed pulling out the invaders. But there's always something fighting its way back in. But there's always something pushing me to.
I'm getting more of a Nine Inch Nails vibe out of this. Just the way that, like, I'd heard that he'd sort of gone more into singing. I mean, he's always sung, like, just like think of Got the Life and stuff like that. But it was kind of always more of like a higher sort of more. This isn't. When I say annoying tone, I don't mean that it was annoying to listen to. I mean it was kind of like it was kind of a bit of a petulant sort of sound before, and now he sort of brought it right back down into like a low thing. But again, that could be just the nature of this particular song. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, but it's got that sort of vibe that kind of reminds me of the Downward Spiral a little bit, with less industrial sounding music. Interesting, really interesting. Let's go back. Because everything sort of hasn't changed much place wise, although the riffing sounds a lot more sort of down the line as well. There's not really that quintessential Korn sort of wee kind of that sort of thing that they'd clearly borrowed directly from Cypress Hill, you know.
I should have been good, I should have been down, I couldn't let go, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings break apart, the pain that starts the feeling. I should have withstood, I shouldn't bow down, I couldn't get through, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings break apart, the pain that starts the feeling. Do you really want to throw at me this travesty that cuts sharp like a razor? Are you its way back in. But there's always something pushing me to give in. Do you really want to make believe and try to achieve a little break from the anger? I should have been good, I should have been down, I couldn't let.
Who's playing bass? I think part of the reason it sounds so different is it's definitely not fieldy, because that sort of super detuned, slappy kind of percussive sound isn't there. It's just a fingerstyle bass, which is nice, right? It sounds good. Does it sound like Korn though? No, not really. But it doesn't, to me, that doesn't matter, right? As long as it's a good song and it's a good execution of the song. You know, I'm not here ticking boxes going, well, hang on, it doesn't have this and it doesn't have that, so therefore not Korn, right? It's different. I kind of like the energy of the song though. Like, it's got this self-reflection thing in the lyrics, but there's always something fighting its way back in. You know, like, one thing I remember seeing in a Korn documentary is that a lot of people were in the band were upset with Jonathan having these rage attacks and saying terrible things, and you know, a lot of that was probably due to the addiction and all that sort of stuff as well. But it sounds like the lyrics are more about redemption and how much of a struggle the journey is every day, you know? And I'm sort of hearing that reflected through the music as well. It's kind of like, yeah, there's like a solemn energy to it, far more serious, you know? But yeah, I'm really digging the vibe of the song overall though.
They want to make believe and try to achieve a little break from the anger. I should have been good, I should have been down, I couldn't let go, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings break apart, the pain is suffocating. I should have withstood, I shouldn't bow down, I couldn't get through, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings break apart, the pain is suffocating. Everything I'm feeling burst into flames. Looking at a soul that's broken and strained. Every night the wish is always the same. Keep on hoping that I don't go insane.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm hearing, and again, this is just pure speculation, I think that Jonathan has had a lot of vocal problems. It's that age-old story of when you're a young man, you got to prove to the world who you are, and that's where that signature Korn sound came from. It's the impetuousness of youth, of like, we're going to make our stand. This is what we are going to produce, and if you don't like it, bad luck, right? They've created that legacy. They don't need to reinvent the wheel anymore. So I feel like they just want to, you know, sort of put out there just great music now. But what's interesting about his voice is you can hear how softly he's singing, right? And he's singing with greater technique than he ever has before, as far as like, you know, there was some nice vibrato in that note there. And the fact that he didn't go to a scream when it seemed obvious, like this part here where that would be the choice, right? That's what most people would do, but he didn't. He pulled it back, subdued it. That must go insane. It was a different choice. And I feel like a younger Jonathan Davis would have made a different choice. That said, is it due to the fact that he's done so much damage to his voice that he has to stay away from doing those aggressive vocalizations? Who knows? There's still a minute or two left in the song. It could switch up. But I remember when at the Chester Bennington Festival celebration concert thing, right? He came out and sang, and I noticed he was struggling quite a lot. And it's not fair to sort of go, well, how come he wasn't good on the night? A lot of these, you got to remember, at the time, he might not have sung in 7 years. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like how long he'd been in hiatus. And aggressive vocals are kind of a muscle you have to maintain, right? And so, you know, whether he performed great or not on the night, it doesn't really matter. I never hold artists to such great account for live performances, because we've all done them and we've all had bad nights, right? It just so happens their bad nights happen in front of 100,000 people or an audience of 10 million online, you know? So, but I definitely remember hearing, oh, his singing days are behind him, right? And so what it seems like is now that they've sort of gotten back into the concept of potentially bringing out new material, he might have gone and sought help. And so you can hear that he's working through these processes on the album, right? He's making choices that are far less aggressive. I mean, the song is about being less aggressive, so that's a thing as well. But I can definitely tell that there's something going on there where he's being very cautious, right? Does it affect the song overall? No, I don't think it does. I think it's still kind of cool. It's a cool song. And you don't need to have everything cranked up to 11 all the time, you know?
That I don't go insane. The more you fall for it, the more it starts to stick. The more you fall for it, the more it starts to stick.
See that? He's singing real quiet there, you know? This would be a part where someone else may have gone far more aggressive vocally. But it doesn't need it, right? It's just, I'm kind of hearing what I expect and not getting it, but it doesn't make it bad, right? It makes it different. So yeah, but interesting, very interesting choices.
The more it starts to stick, the more you fall for it. The more it starts to stick, the more you fall for it. It's never gonna win. I should have been good, I should have been down. I couldn't let go, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings. Break apart the pain that starts the healing. I should have withstood, I shouldn't bow down. I couldn't get through, what could I do? I could take it all away, the feelings. Break apart the pain that starts the healing. Break apart the pain that starts the healing. Break apart the pain that starts the healing.
Interesting. So who's in the band now? Korn members 2022. Let's find out. Jonathan Davis on bagpipes. Okay, so is it Reginald Arvizu on bass? Yeah, okay, because it kind of had a fieldy vibe. Is that fieldy? I don't even know. I'm so confused. I don't know. I've been out of the game too long, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know who any of these guys are. Hang on. Yeah, Brian Welch. Okay, so Fieldy's on hiatus, right? So I don't know that was him playing. I think he was in the video, because when the camera panned out there on the far left, it looked like him, right? But it says that he's currently on hiatus, meaning that he's not like technically with the band. So I'm wondering if maybe they didn't show him playing in the video because it was a session player. He's still in the band, but he maybe didn't play on that song. So it would be unusual for him to go in and be in the video. Maybe I missed something. I mean, I was too busy listening to the song, but interesting. So Brian Welch is still in there. Okay, so Monkey as well, right? They've all got nicknames. That's why I was like reading the names going, are they session musicians or what? Okay, so is it essentially the whole band except for maybe the drummer's different? Wow, okay, well, there you go. Anyway, we'll be right back with the summary after this. When Korn wrote the song Blind, scholars maintained that they were actually referring to the condition of colorblindness. I've got nothing to back that up. I just made that up. But if you're colorblind, if you're one of the 1 in 6 guys or 1 in 200 women who are colorblind, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description. It'll take you to the Enchroma website where you can get your eyes tested and find out what sort of color deficiency you have and get some corrective lenses while you're there. They've got styles that suit everybody. And if you use the code CHAOS in checkout, you'll get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Okay, so what can we say about this song, Start the Healing? I think this is a really good example of starting the healing. I think that they've hit the nail on the head with this one, because it's not as aggressive as maybe people would have liked, coming out of the gates, you know, after however long since the last memorable Korn song came out. Having said that, these are guys in a later phase of their career. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They don't need to tick all the boxes of coming up with new and original ideas and concepts. I think that now it's all about securing the legacy of just being good songwriters and writing about what they feel, right? And like I said, there's been a lot of turmoil in just about every band member hasn't been untouched by some sort of controversial thing like addiction or, you know, going off the rails, or, you know, in Jonathan's case, anger management, things like that as well. So, you know, it probably took an awful lot of energy for these guys to get back together in a room, sort out their differences, put the past in the past, and sort of come together to create something. And what came out of that, to me, it suits, right? Like, I think everybody they've got this romantic vision of them playing the songs, you know, or writing the songs that they wrote 20 years ago, for the rest of their lives. But bands are made of people, and people change and evolve over time, and their priority shifts, and nobody's priorities shift more than people who've gone through a lot of drama and trials and tribulations in their life, not the least of which when all of that drama is caused by, you know, their instant celebrity and their, you know, their rise to fame, and everybody expecting a legacy from them, and the pressures of releasing the next album. And then when that album doesn't hit as hard as the album 2 albums before it, which everyone was expecting, you know, the pressure is on, and then suddenly you feel like you're not worthy, and then that can lead to a spiral down and things like that. And these guys have been through the ringer, man, many times. And, you know, they created a genre. They're like a tentpole band for that period of time back in when was it? Mid to late 90s, right? They created an entire new genre of metal for young angsty teens to relate to. And now those young angsty teens are in their late 30s, early 40s, and they're going, why aren't you guys still doing the same thing that you were, you know, 26 years ago? Are you doing the same thing you were doing that long ago? No, you don't have the same passions. Maybe you still like Korn, you still listen to their albums from back in the day. But these guys are in a whole different spectrum of their life right now. And I think the music reflects that. It's more mature. They're being more cautious about what they're putting out there in the world. It has an interesting message. It's about the challenges that they face, you know, day to day, one day at a time, you know, and acknowledging the difficulties that they've had and how challenging it is to continue day to day, you know, based on their legacy. And I think this is a really competent, mature composition. I think it's really good. You know, there's nothing that stands out as being extreme, like conceptually or anything like that. But does it need to? Sometimes songs are just good songs, you know. You know, I mean, I listened to Polyphia for the first time yesterday, and it changed my perception of how to play guitar. And stuff like that doesn't come along very often, but when it does, man, does it create like ripples that just go far and wide. But not everything needs to do that. Sometimes you just need some good songs. There's probably, I would say, at this point in their lives, there's a lot of fans that would actually relate more to this music now than they would if they heard, you know, Follow the Leader or like Life is Peachy for the first time today. They'd probably listen to it and go, oh, that's not for me. They're romanticizing it based on, you know, how they related to it as teenagers. But if you're like 40 years old and someone played this to you, you might, or played like one of the early Korn songs to you for the first time, you might be like, oh, it's not for me, you know. But you may relate more closely to this, you know. Who knows? Look, at the end of the day, everyone who listens to music has a different perspective and a different outlook, and that's the beauty of it, right? We can't all like the same bands. If we did, there'd be one band. But yeah, I mean, I've been waffling on for a while now, but what I think I'm getting at in summary is I think this is the right music for these guys to be playing at this point. And who knows, in the future they might go in a different direction again. Who knows? But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think it's a cool song. It'll go on my playlist, and when it comes on, I'm not going to skip it. So that's always a good sign. Yeah, okay. So anyway, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. And, you know, all of these videos get demonetized, so it helps a lot. And thank you so much for everybody who's liked, subscribed, and followed already. But if you haven't, jump on it. Do it now if you want to see more of this sort of content. Thanks again, guys. This one wasn't a recommendation so much as something that I wanted to explore, but keep the recommendations coming. I'm a big fan of pretty much everything you guys have thrown at me. So there's nothing too weird, nothing too esoteric. I'll take a look at it. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.